Hi, welcome to Great British Churches. Today, strangely enough, we are in the town of Ipswich, but as you can see, we're out in the countryside too. There's Paul, give a wave, Paul. We are in a small place called Akenham, and it is right on the outskirts of Ipswich. And if I take you over here somewhere, you will be able to see Thurston School, but it's probably better to be seen from the churchyard. So we are at St Mary's Church in Akenham. Now this is an absolute little gem. To get to it, it's up a very rough track, farm track, and it's quite hard going for a couple of minutes to get here. And like Paul just said, there's really no houses around here. Probably the nearest parish to here is Thurston. So we're just going to go through the church gate now, and you can see the church. Now, there's been a church here since the 11th century. But as you can see, it's very tiny, but it has got a brick Tudor addition there, which I'll talk to you about more when we get inside. So just got this little grassy path that goes up to the church. The tower, as you can see, is on the south side. Now this church is quite pivotal in the reform laws, and in a moment I shall take you round the back and I'm going to show you a grave. Now the grave is of Joseph Ramsey, who was 2 years old when he died. And just take you up around here. I'll talk to you more about the church as we go round. As you can see, we've got some lovely tracery window here, which is on the Tudor part of the church. Absolutely beautiful. We did come here yesterday and it was a lovely summer day. We are in May at the moment, but it was a lovely summer's day. But unfortunately, 5 minutes after our arrival, the key holder came and locked the church. So we're here today and it's been raining and the ground is very wet underfoot. So you can see here, there's the side of this 15th century piece, and there's a strange thing going on here. It's obviously been repaired at some point, but I don't know if you can see, seems to be an arch of stones there. Whether that's accidental or something else was put there, I don't honestly know. And then here we have, deeply etched into the window, a name, and it looks like Joe Suckhim, don't know. It's something there, and it's probably been there for centuries. Absolutely amazing.
Very little stone in this church at all, is there?
Well, it's been rendered, so it's very difficult to tell if it is. It probably is made of flint, but because it's got a render on it, a lot of churches in this area were made out of flint and rubble stone that was just picked up out of fields, and then they imported finer stone to do the pretty bits, if you like. So things like coins would be made out of the stone that they'd had transported down here. It is very wet here today. Right, so this is a case in point, really. We've got flint and rubble stone there, and here you've got finer stonework that was done to create the windows. You see, and here is an interesting little window because it's got those little jambs that come down either side of it, and it is absolutely beautiful. And again, you can see on that buttress that you've got the flint work, and then you've got the finer details of the stone in the coin work. So this little grave here is the child that I told you about a moment ago. I'm just trying to avoid the really long wet grass. Unfortunately, a lot of the inscription on it cannot be read, but this was Joseph Ramsey, and he is buried on the north side of the church. So we're just going to go back round to the front of the church. He was buried on the north side of the church, and this is typically where stillborn infants would have been buried, sort of like in the 17th, 18th, 19th century. So I'm just going to go around here. Yeah, we're going to go to this side because there is, like I said, we went here yesterday and there is a bit in the church about him. So we're going to go in there. So there's some magnificent table tombs here. Look at that one, that is just absolutely beautiful. Even the simple brick ones are amazing. So we're just going into the tower, which is on the south side and is acting as the porch. And we've just got these simple doors. And then we come in here. Now, it's not unusual in this area for the tower to be on the south side. We do have that. It's unbuttressed, so it doesn't have any buttresses at all. That's helping it to stand up. Oh, excuse me. The top of the tower was rebuilt in 1854, and it had battlements, but I'll take you around there again in a moment to show you that. Now the belfry, I'm just going to pop back outside again. The belfry has cusped lancets, so we're just going to see if we can see those. So, just bear with me. Yes, you can see that up there. It's not very good because I'm standing too close, but I don't think I could get you any closer to seeing it. And you can see up there, and I don't know if you can see, but there is a window, a bigger window, a louvered window for the bell, and there's a lion up there. It's amazing. So we're just going to go back in. Now the church is absolutely beautiful. It is so simple, and it has got a brick floor, which I would imagine is original. Now if I could just ask Paul to come over here and just lift up the doormat. Sure. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it today because it's a little bit on the gloomy side. But here we were told by the key holder is the oldest piece of script. Now it's actually on a tombstone inside the door. I'm just going to try and get you down as low as possible. And it is that. And apparently it has been looked at by a script expert, and they say that it does come from the 15th century. There is a stone here that it's attached to, and it is very difficult to read. A lot of it's quite faint these days, so I'm just allowing to put the mat back. So I'm just going to take you around the church.
The ceiling's amazing.
Yeah, no, the ceiling is a king post ceiling. So you can see that is absolutely stunning. So we're in the nave at the moment. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do 3 things at once here at the moment. Please ignore the dust up the corner. But we've got the organ there. I'll come round. Now this font is beautiful. And you're going to see the tracery details that are on here. I'm just trying to find out when this font, it's 15th century.
So this would have been put in 1400 and something?
Yeah.
Can you lift the lid?
In a moment, I'm just taking, I'm just having a look around. Look like there's got a bit of a crack in it or something around this side. It's had some damage done to it. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's 8-sided, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not broken up like many would say.
No, but there's a big crack.
Yeah.
And it's on every panel in exactly the same way. So something has happened to it. And then you've got the pedestal, the part there.
Let's have a look. Is it a lead line?
No, it's not a lead-lined font.
It has bricks.
You're still washing that bowl. That these things disappear over time. Now, so over there you can see that there's been a window that has previously been blocked up. Now, I don't know if you can see, but these walls are exceptionally thick. Now this, as I said, there's been a church here since the 11th century, but we believe this is mainly 13th century because these walls are so thick. Now it started out that in the Saxon period they built churches with very thick walls and very little windows because they believed that there was a strength in the walls. The Normans came along and said, no, we can have bigger windows. They still kept the thickness of the walls, but they put in bigger windows. And that was where we started getting finer details coming in. Then obviously we went on to the early decorated, the Gothic, the Perpendicular, and all that. So, this is the pulpit. Now, this is late 18th century, so built somewhere in the 1700s. But just look how thin that shaft is that it stands on. If you're an impassioned vicar, I'm sure you would imagine it's a little bit rocky. I don't know if I'd want to be there. So, we're now coming up into the chancel. As you can see, there's not really an awful lot to this church. But we're coming up to this stone in the window. And I can't get to it because someone's put a big horse-drawn plough in the way. And you see you can't actually get to it. So, I'm going to read it out if I can see it. Now this, in memory of Joseph, son of Edward and Sarah Ramsay, who died at Akenham on his 2nd birthday, August the 19th, 1878. Suffer little children, and forbid them not to come unto me. For of such is the kingdom of heaven. And that relates to the little stone that I showed you out the back of the church. I know I'm keeping you all on tenterhooks about this, aren't I? So here we can see a window, and as you can see, it's coming away from the Norman period. The details are getting a little bit finer. It's still probably a Norman surround, but as time went on, people thought I could put more finer windows. I could do finer detail on the windows. There goes a little Norman window there. And this is the priest's door, which is absolutely charming. There goes another Norman window. Now, just...
It's worth explaining why there's a priest's door there.
Hold on.
The priest's door is there because this end of the church would have been separate from this end where the people were. Anything that went on behind here, there would have been a screen, and beyond here, it would have almost felt like magic. This is where the work of God goes on.
I don't know about you, Paul, but I don't think there's any electric running here.
There's none, no.
I haven't seen anything to suggest it. So you've got these absolutely wonderful candelabras. There's two of them here.
Even the organ has candles.
Yeah. I've not seen, and if you look at the cleaning things, there's brooms, not hoovers. So it's absolutely darling. Yeah. Don't take any notice of him. Right, so we're now going into this area. Now, this is what I showed you from the outside, which is the Tudor area. And I'm just going to step up. And it's absolutely beautiful. Now, this was built as a chapel for the Horse family. So, you can see there's the windows that I showed you from the outside. And there's the other one there. What's that? And they've got box pews, which are amazing. And some of them, I don't think these ones particularly have linen fold panels.
I would say these are older. They're definitely Victorian.
Yeah.
These are old. If you look, they're held with wooden pegs. And look at those hinges.
Yeah, they're definitely older, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a look in that, you might be able to find out how old they are. So I'm just going to take you down. Just look at the details, even on the inside, how that wood has been joined.
Did you catch this niche?
No, I didn't. Right, so when we come here yesterday, we couldn't understand why a transept would have a piscina. But upon reading further, we realised that this was actually built as a chapel for the Horse family. And there's probably why there is a piscina here. It's absolutely simple. Beautiful. So, just going to go down. I can see people walking around outside, so I don't know if they're going to be coming in or not. So, down the little step. Now, the chancel arch here is huge. I will be taking some measurements, and if I don't manage to include that into the video, then obviously I will put that in the comment section below. So we will take some measurements of that in a moment. But this church really is well worth the visit. Now, if you can see these pews, did you find any details about these pews, Paul? No. These pews, there we go, there's the linen fold panel and the door there. I think they're 18th and 19th century, so these ones are obviously 19th century, and we believe that those ones over in the Tudor area are 18th. Absolutely beautiful. Now, these pews here were commissioned by the Rector, Rev Drury. He caused quite a bit of a commotion here in 1878. And yes, I'm now going to tell you about the little grave. Or rather, I'm going to read something out. Now, this church was at the heart of a big dispute. Now this little boy had died, so there is a thing here inside the church, and it's that, and I'm going to read it out to you. I will keep the camera on it, but I don't think you're going to be able to see it. It's Joseph Ramsey Memorial. Akenham achieved national notoriety in 1878 with the burial of a 2-year-old Joseph, the unbaptized child of Edward and Sarah Ramsey, who were members of the Zoe Baptist Church in Ipswich, but lived in Akenham. Edward was employed by Mr. E. Gooding of Akenham Hall, a worshipper at Tackett Street Congregational Church. Civil law decreed that any parishioner had the right to be buried in his parish churchyard, but church law insisted that only Anglican clergy could conduct this burial service, and they were forbidden to conduct a Christian service at the burial of any person who had been baptised. Who had not been baptised. On an August afternoon in 1878, the rector, the Rev Drury, arrived at the churchyard at the agreed time of 5 p.m. to receive the appropriate certificate and to witness the child's decent burial, but without any services, as this was his duty. Mr. Gooding, however, had arranged for the Reverend Wickham Tozer, minister of St. Nicholas Street Congregational Church in Ipswich, to conduct a service in the meadow outside the churchyard before the child was buried, when the service did not begin until 5:30 p.m, and asking that the coffin be placed in the grave. He could then return home and witness. Sorry, I've missed a bit out there, I think. The child was buried when the service did not begin until 5:30 p.m. and seemed likely to last for a considerable time. The impatient rector interrupted it, asking that the coffin be placed in the grave. He could then return home and not witness a service of which he strongly disapproved. A rather unpleasant verbal altercation then took place, which resulted in the rector locking the church gate and storming off. The coffin had to be lifted and passed over the hedge for the burial when the service had ended. I must get some new glasses. The widespread feeling caused by the Akenham Burial Case resulted in a libel action brought against the editor of the East Anglian Daily Times by Rev Drury, which is our local newspaper, and other related incidents did much to hasten the passing of the Burial Laws Amendment Act in 1880. This permitted burials in any churchyard in the land to take place using any appropriate form of service, or even without a religious service. So that is the story of that little stone out the back there. To a 2-year-old being that pivotal that he's going to change the law of the land, and I think is absolutely amazing.
It's worth saying as well, I think, now that
Hang on, let me get
this
you on.
is national law, and the law of this country was changed by this, and that poor little chap is buried there on the north side, because he's not out here on the south side of the great and the good.
No, because he's unbaptised.
He's unbaptised, and
He's out there with other stillborn infants who would not have been baptised because they unfortunately died before they could be, and that's why they're out there. The north side is where the sun doesn't shine on a churchyard, so anybody who's unbaptised as a stillborn, or anybody who's poor, they will be buried that side. A lot of the times people think that they're buried outside of the church surrounding. In some cases, yes, but in a lot of cases, no. So we're just going to take one last look. So you've got that chancel arch there. Now if Paul has a look at the information I carefully typed out last night, he might be able to tell you a bit about that. We go through so many churches that we have to write all this information down. So maintaining it and remembering it can be a little bit difficult.
it's worth saying as well that a fund was kept to keep the priests for this church, because this is not actually a parish church. This would have been a church.
This is probably a manorial church. There's some big farms at the end of the track here that makes me think, were they important enough to have this as their own church? And that plaque there talks about Akenham Hall, that we passed yesterday looking for this. So this could be the manorial church for one of those big places around here.
Because we discussed yesterday as well that Tudor-built brick chapel on the end there may have been a chantry chapel or just a family chapel. The big families, which were the Hawes here, they may have been in there behind a bit of a screen. So
I don't think there's a screen there. There's nothing.
No.
There's nothing there to say they were shielded from the rest of the congregation. I think they just paid for themselves to have a chapel.
But
and
it's got what is that alcove called again?
A piscina.
A piscina. Right, it's got one of those. Is there one out here? I don't think there is.
There isn't.
No. So.
But you imagine trying to put a piscina in these walls. They are. I don't know how thick these walls are. Paul's got the measure, so I might get him to measure the thickness of these walls. They are just absolutely massive.
3 foot thick, 6 feet wide. The nave of the chancel was 55 feet from end to end. It's a tiny church, and I think I measured that the nave is 18 feet wide. So it's not. This is a tiny church.
It is a very tiny church.
It was likely, having read the history with this, a fund which is equivalent to £100,000 a year today, an awful lot of money, for a priest to look after the 3 churches. There's this one at Claydon, which is about a mile away, and the other one I'll have to look it up. But the priest had to walk each Sunday and stand at a stile at the bottom of the hill. And if anybody turned up for service, he'd have to come and do a service, and then on the Sunday get around all 3 churches. But this, as we say, it's not a parish church. We're looking at the buildings on like Rise Hall and stuff around us. It's got the feel of a monastic or some sort of clerical buildings around here as well.
Yeah.
There's very few houses.
And you said that there's a Roman fort or something.
Yes, we're on the track here. There's Castle Hill, which is probably on the edge, about a mile away from here on the edge of Ipswich. There was a Roman villa, and the Roman road from Colchester ran to here, and then it had a dogleg in it, and it went north to Norwich. So this site is probably and possibly, as there's a lot of really early churches, it's probably had a lot of use in pre-Christian times. But
well, look, that book that I got today, that was about the Akenham Burial Case, and I will link that in the description if anybody wants to have a more detailed read about this. It said that there was probably about 70 residents in and around this area, and I used to know someone that lived at the bottom of the actual lane where we are now, and there's not another house for quite a while. I suppose there's about a mile between these 2 houses that are either side of this track.
And we're up a dirt track, probably 3/4 of a mile from the nearest road.
Now, the reason I think this is a manorial tract is because we've got 2 big farms practically on the doorstep here, and in the centuries past, they would have employed agricultural labourers, ploughmen, shepherds, stockmen, all sorts, and so they would have been coming to service in a church like this. So I'm just going to have a look at this. Now, I love this. This is a ledger stone, and it is for Elizabeth Finn. Now, this might be the family that we've got another area called Finn Valley in Ipswich, very famous for its golf course there, apparently. So the area might be named after the Finn family here. So it's under this marble stone resteth the body of Elizabeth Finn, late wife of Robert Finn of this parish, and daughter of Francis Coppinger of Prantford, gent, who departed this life September the 14th, 1683. And at the bottom, the inscription reads, I don't know if you're going to see that because I've got the sun coming through, or a bit of light coming through anyway, I don't know about the sun. For 19 years I lived a virgin life. The 17th morn, being married, lived a wife. At 36, pale death my life assailed, and as I lived, I died, beloved, bewailed. Here resteth the body of Robert Finn, who departed this life the 6th of July, 1686. Now, the bit I like about this is, obviously, we've had a stonemason carve this, and he's not been very good with his measurements. And if you can see, you've got little things squeezed in. Now, I'm going to try to get you down low to have a look at this. Now, you can see where it says married and lived a wife. They've had to squeeze that in there. And that happens in funny little places. Like you've got here, gent with a T there, Francis, and rested. And I think that is absolutely wonderful. Right, so we're now just going to go outside. So this is St Mary's Church. It is at Akenham. I will put in the comments a rough way of getting here. I'll try and do that as much as I can. There we go. We've now got the bell tower there. Just the one road, so probably just the one bell. And that comes down here. So this must have been quite awkward for people to come into this church and there's someone standing there ringing the bell and you've got all these people walking past you. And then now Paul wants me to say something about the tower. I'm not quite sure what it is, so I'm going to let him talk about that bit.
It's strange, we were here yesterday and it was in beautiful sunshine and I didn't notice just up there on the tower, if you can see, there's a little niche there, and most churches, because obviously we're talking about these churches being built when the faith we were Catholics, and there would have been a little statue in there of the saint of the church, and obviously this one being St Mary's, it would be Mary. No? Correct me, dear wife.
I don't know. You've got the details in your hand. Yeah. You probably are right, my love. Who knows? This is an absolute wonderful church. Right, we're now going to walk down to the gate.
Can I just say one thing about this is a church that's maintained and looked after by the church's conservation trust,
yes,
which
very
is a charity.
important.
And as we say, this church isn't used anymore. There are one or two quite modern graves here into the 2000s, but the majority of this hasn't been used as a church for normal service